that could have main evented something here, man. Now, I'm not suggesting it has to main event Survivor Series, but even if it was sort of like second from last or something like that, do you feel like there's a bit of a hole that they're not putting as much in the women's division now, and that that sort of what they so definitely getting behind has sort of dropped off a little bit in the last 12 months or so, Matt, even though there are more sort of women, I guess, but they're sort of spread across two brands. It seems like we've seen every single different combination we can get our hands on until we get somebody fresh coming in the mix, and whether that means Ronda Rousey and something like that. But for me, Matt, if Ronda Rousey's coming in here, that division's got to be a little bit more treated a little bit more seriously how it was maybe last year. What do you think about how they're presenting the women, and do you think like they're sort of taking a little bit of a back seat with them at the moment?
Yeah, it does kind of feel that way, and I would agree with the reasons behind it. I would say it's because you split into two shows now, and on each roster you only have about 7 or 8 women, and there's only a maximum amount of combinations you can get out of that for one-on-one matches in particular, especially when they start doing tag team matches and all that. And the time that they shift the superstars around isn't frequent enough to actually get fresh combinations. So you do kind of find yourself getting to the 6-month mark and thinking, I've seen this, seen that. And when it particularly annoyed me as well, when the commentary in this match, when they said, that lately Charlotte hadn't been on it, she'd been off her game or whatever. And I'm thinking, no, she hasn't at all. Yeah. She's been consistently performing at a high level. She has not slipped at all. It's just the title opportunities, and it does frustrate me at times when they give the title to someone who I don't want to say isn't as deserving, but not on the level of Charlotte, and then they get the protection. They don't get a fair one-on-one match against Charlotte because they're afraid, because they don't want to have a clean victory over Charlotte at the expense, so you just end up having to wait for like we did on SmackDown. All of a sudden, out of the blue, she just gets that shot and then reclaims the title because it makes sense to them to have a bigger name at a pay-per-view.
Sure. Listen, I know I'm going to upset a few people here when I say this, but I'm going to go right off the bat and I'm going to say a nay to this, and here's why. I just felt like these two, especially Alexa Bliss, I felt like these two should never have been put together, and I feel like you was always going to have to damage one of them, and I feel like this is a match that really didn't need to happen, and I felt Alexa Bliss is doing really some good stuff. I mean, if there's anything positive, it's probably her on the Raw side, because let's face it, Bayley, Sasha Banks and everybody else on there seems like they've gone well backwards. But if they've done something right, I'll say Alexa Bliss has been, pretty decent. But I think putting her against Charlotte, even Charlotte it was awkward, this match. And I felt like it was really hard to get, when you got this level of a match. By the way, this is like a WrestleMania type of match. But, trying to put them in against like this and the length of time that they actually went at it, I just found it a little bit. I felt like they should never have put them together for what they stood for. You could argue either woman should have won. I was glad that Charlotte ended up getting the win just purely because I'm such a fan of hers, and I feel like they've really dropped the ball with her. It's not just about being the champion, it's about how the company... at one point, I remember last year I said, I think that, or actually at the start of this year, that I felt like Charlotte was the most sort of well-established champion within the entire company, just the way she was carrying herself, and that belt really meant something. Whereas since she's gone to SmackDown, I don't know whether it's the whole babyface thing, but I just don't think she suits it as well. And yeah, I just felt like this was always gonna be difficult, and going in, I felt like that, and this is a dream match, but I just felt like these two should not be the two that end up at Survivor Series in this Raw versus SmackDown type of thing. And I know that they're both champions, I get that, but I feel like it does a bit of damage here for Alexa in a little way, because they've done so well protecting her and making her this sort of feat. I'm like, did they really need to do that? Did they need to do this match? Could they have had somebody else in this spot? I don't know, Matt. Am I being a little bit too negative here for this? And if so, what did you think of putting these two together and the match that they did?
No, I think you're getting it spot on. I can add a little bit to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
That when you look at Charlotte to what she was like on Raw to what she is on SmackDown, it is again completely different. Although she is still being consistent and still working at a high level, it does seem like they book her differently. Like, to someone like Alexa Bliss, no disrespect to her at all, tremendous athlete, great in the ring, but when that bell rang, you saw the size difference between these two.
That's what I think I didn't like.
You knew where Charlotte came from, and you knew the abilities that she possessed, and yet somehow Alexa is getting the better of her. It kind of felt like, they switched which horse they were betting on. They were like, okay, we're going to run with Charlotte hard, and then they put all their money on Alexa, and they're like, well, we can't let her lose face now. It just felt like they were trying to go too 50-50, like make it look like Alexa can beat Charlotte up, but then give Charlotte the victory as a consolation. It didn't really sit well with me. Yeah,
it did seem a bit like, it seems like they were doing too much protection. Well, I mean, Alexa tapped at just under 16 minutes here from the figure eight, of course, as she calls it. And, for me, it was a nay, just because I just didn't like the idea. I didn't like the fact that they were even going against each other from the bat, and I felt like the match wasn't, just after what Matt just said there, I totally agree with him. Wasn't done right. I didn't feel like it was done with any sort of method or chemistry where, it was scientific that is the old Charlotte and that's how she would have been, because it's not. And the size difference was crazy when they put these two, and that's why sometimes you got to keep these sort of people apart. But Matt, a yay or a nay for does this get a pass for you, this match?
No, it doesn't. And again, it's another one of those matches where I looked at it on paper and thought it should. I should be enjoying this, but looking at the way that they almost portrayed Charlotte as like the underdog in this, and I was like, no, she should have been dominating that match clearly, and it should have been the other way around. But it's a thumbs down here.
Same for me on that one. So we both agree on that. And again, this brings us into the next match, which is now the WWE Champion versus the Universal Champion. It's, of course, Brock Lesnar up against the AJ Styles, and the match that, so odd, this whole putting this together, because I don't know if this is just a one-off, and, I think we can talk about it now, really, Matt, but Jinder Mahal, that's the match they booked on paper. I feel like this does total damage on him, personally. I think, like, when we spoke about him last time on the podcast, even, we had a few people email us in how, that and even we both said, we thought like he was carrying it well, and he was getting somewhere, and how the worst case scenario for him and another Kevin Owens would be to lose it now and not get to WrestleMania. Now, it's my understanding, Matt, that he's already having a match this week on SmackDown, and the likelihood is he about to win it back, and this was just a match just for Survivor Series that we got between AJ and Brock. I mean, it's very odd. Matt, what do you make of putting in AJ like this? Was this because WWE didn't want to put Jinder up against Brock for some reason? And if so, why? Why would that have been? Is there a main issue for you there, Matt?
I really can't understand it as well. I mean, it was a pretty stacked card, so even if they did feel like Jinder versus Brock is a little bit more underwhelming than AJ versus Brock, it really doesn't matter too much, because I think a lot of people walked into this match knowing that Brock was going to win anyway. The kind of protection that he gets within the WWE and his status of the beast, the unconquerable beast, you kind of feel like AJ didn't have much of a hope
Yeah.
But when we was talking about Jinder beforehand as well, saying that we kind of enjoyed his work as a champion, yeah, that may very well be so, but there comes a point in each champion's title run when you finally get that match that makes the champion. And I think this would have been the match for Jinder. This would have been the one where we would have seen him take a beating from Brock, yeah, fair enough, but then we would have had more respect for him because of it. We would have thought, okay, he can hang in there with like the meanest and toughest guys that they can throw at him, and work on that level with them. I think the matches we've seen beforehand, Nakamura and Randy Orton, they weren't that electrifying, to say the least. You know, they weren't his all-time number one greatest feuds. I think something between him and Brock would have really solidified himself as a good champion, like even if he did have to lose. Yeah,
so I was disappointed that we didn't get it, because I'm not going to say that I was disappointed that we didn't get AJ and Brock, because this was by far my best match of the night, 100%. But I, and take nothing away, I was happy. It was a dream match, but I was just like, Jinder Mahal, this is going to be his big box office type attraction match. He needs this. Even if he loses, it's still a big high profile match that he would have had. And yet, for some reason, even though he was booked, he was advertised. I can't help but think this is such a last minute ditch on him, and not involved in at all in the night. In fact, Matt, in the end, he's like, all he done was, hope that, that the SmackDown win, and then he was going to hope that Brock beats him up, and so that he can win his title back on Tuesday night. When, for me, it feels like he is going to win it back, and if he does win it back, it really makes me even think even worse about the whole thing, because it's almost like WWE didn't trust him enough, or didn't think that match was going to be enough to work. When I think, if you think how much they've been stubborn about other things, I'm like, why didn't they just let this happen? Because, again, with Jinder Mahal, I think that working with a guy like Brock, who loves that physicality, who's pretty much just been working with guys like this all year round. I mean, if you think from Joe, Braun Strowman, back to, Goldberg, that's what Brock Lesnar's been up against. But yeah, it was odd that they did that. I was surprised, considering they'd had the back and forth with Heyman and, and Jinder. So yeah, very strange. But we get AJ Styles. Going to take nothing away from him being the champion, because again, an amazing talent. Exactly what his nickname is, phenomenal. He is, and this was somewhat of a dream match in itself. Do I really think this was like the best from SmackDown versus the best from Raw? You know what? It's probably not far off it. Because, I didn't feel like that with Jinder, because I felt like, well, he's just kind of new. But I felt like this had more of that about it. But, again, it wasn't SmackDown versus Raw for me. This was Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles. I was more intrigued about that. But I hated the fact the commentators just kept going on about it. Like, Brock has to win because Raw are down, and they have to win to get it. Otherwise, SmackDown win the night. And I was like, stop going on about that. Focus on the damn match. I felt like it lost some of its... It could have been so much better. I mean, this match, for me, Matt, was the best match of the night. And I'll be honest, I think this is one of Brock's best matches, period. I feel like the chemistry between these two was excellent. And AJ Styles, for a guy his size, I felt like Brock done a really good job of selling that AJ could go hang with him. And you know what a guy like Brock Lesnar's like, Matt. He doesn't do that if he doesn't want to. But I felt like he did here. And AJ's so good at it, like at making himself look like a not just a, he doesn't come across like a total underdog. He looks like he can kind of hang in there at certain points, and you think like, hang on, he's got a lot of offense here. You kind of believe he could hang toe to toe, which is very difficult with an established act like Brock Lesnar, considering where he's come off. What did you make of the match, Matt? Was you impressed with it as much as I was, and how these two work together, and going in that we got this instead of Jinder?
Oh yeah, going into this, no doubt I was impressed with the match, and I thought they did do a good job of gelling together. Even though they may have not had a lot of time to actually figure out how this whole thing was going to go down. I'm not too sure what the kind of information they were given to before us, whether they knew this was going